Hello, and welcome to Witty Banter. Once again, I am Stephen Witt.
And I'm Lauren.
And episode 1 went great. I had a lot of positive feedback from those who heard it. And so now we are going to go into episode 2. So, would you like to start us off with one of your topics, or would you prefer I start with one of my topics?
How about you start?
All right. Let's see here. Why don't we go with this one that I didn't get to do last time, but I think is kind of an interesting discussion topic. Which do you think is more impressive? A Nobel Prize in any category, does peace, science, whatever, Nobel Prize, or a gold medal from the Olympics? So which do you think is more impressive to have?
I don't think that's fair. We're starting strong.
I didn't ask if it was fair. Like, okay.
You can't, that's exactly the point.
Well, no, because it's
What's
like...
more impressive implies which
well,
one's better than the other.
It doesn't so much mean which one is better. It is like levels of impress. Like, I am more impressed if someone can run 100 miles than if someone can run 2 miles,
Yeah.
Or I'm more impressed that someone can run 100 miles than someone can spell their own name. Like, even though it's different categories, it's more like if I introduced you to 2 people, I said this person has won a Nobel Prize, and I say this person has a gold medal. Which one do you believe you would be more impressed by?
I would say, wow, 2 very impressive individuals because you are both more talented and accomplished than I am.
Not true, but that's not. So, like, basically,
that's my point. Subjectively speaking, I find both of those achievements, depending on whatever they are, like whatever the prize is, or like the status of athleticism, to be like, they're both the height of their individual fields.
Yes.
So, like, if you achieve either of those things, it just depends subjectively on what subject matter you're more impressed by.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more impressed?
Yes, I'm going to say I'm not asking for an objective opinion.
I know, but like, to me,
I'm asking for your subjective opinion.
That's my problem. That's my point, because I find exceptional athleticism to be on par with exceptional talent in anything else. Like, I can't. Here's how I'll explain this. I had to take ceramics class in college because I was an art major. Now, granted, I was a visual communications, aka graphic design major, but you still had to take every single one of the base disciplines in the art program to qualify, right? Which is fair. You need to like see where your strengths lie and if you can incorporate those into your actual work. I am semi-decent at hand building, like pottery. Like, I can build things like just from scratch and create like little sculptures, but I cannot throw on a wheel. I tried. It was not for lack of trying. I tried so hard. My poor professor gave me a sympathy C on my mugs. I should have failed because they weren't even like, they were barely like an inch tall. They're supposed to be mugs, and I could not get it to go over an inch.
Espresso mugs.
Right, but I wish they weren't stable either. So like, she literally knew how hard I worked. Like, I was in the studio every spare chance I got trying to make these things work. So she knew how much work I put into it. So that's why she gave me the sympathy C, because she knew I tried. But I literally failed. The point of this story is that I find people who do wheel pottery so impressive because I myself cannot do that. Or any kind of like illustration. Anybody who is astronomically more gifted than I am, even though that's what I do professionally and as a hobby, anyone who is more skilled and practiced and talented than I am, I just respect them more. Like, I'm going to have art in my home that is superior to what I can do. The way this relates back is like, again, if anybody has a prestigious award in anything, if they're the top of their field, I consider them to be of the highest regard and respect. So, I don't know how to answer your question. I'm sorry.
My answer is the Nobel Prize.
Yay! An answer!
Because with the Nobel Prize, like, for the gold medal, the athletes obviously, yes, have to train very hard.
Yes.
But in basically all scenarios, it is in the early part of their life. You don't hear about a 60-year-old getting a gold medal. So, like, while they do have to work hard, it is for a shorter amount of time. Whereas for a Nobel Prize, many of the people who earn Nobel Prize have to work for decades in their field in order to achieve this.
Okay.
Sometimes they are like, it takes them like 50, 60 years of work to achieve the research and knowledge that they needed to get that Nobel Prize. And so that's why, to me, the Nobel Prize is more impressive because of the length of time it often takes to achieve that.
That's fair. I'll give you that. That makes sense.
All right. I was really hoping for a little bit more back and forth this, but
to be fair, I really don't know enough about any of this to really have an opinion.
no, that's it. Not all topics are going to be, half an hour long discussions. Before we move on to our next topic, though, the thing that we discussed before videotaping and immediately forgot to do is introduce the third member of our podcast.
Oh!
Would you like to do the honors?
This is she.
For those who are listening to the podcast, this is a cactus. And the cactus's name is?
Her name is Isabella.
You can guess who chose that name.
I'm pointing at Steve.
Yeah, I'll say, yeah.
I forget that we're a visual and audio media.
Yeah, exactly. Even though last I checked, we only had 1 or 2 listeners on the podcast version, and
I wondered. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, we did have at least 1 listen.
Woo!
Last I checked. I know we at least had 1. So that does show.
That is more than nothing.
Yes.
Yay.
Factually true. All right. So, would you like to do one of your subjects now? Hopefully,
should we tell the listeners why her name is Isabella for those who are not nerds like us?
I guess that would behoove us.
Because I can imagine people who don't know this reference are like, why? It's a beautiful name, I'm sure,
Yes.
but why did they name a cactus or a cactus? No, cacti plural.
Yeah,
So
a cactus.
Yes,
a
cactus Isabella.
So, I believe we mentioned this last time.
We did.
I really enjoy the movie Encanto. And in the movie Encanto, there is a person named Isabella who has the power to create plants. And in one of her pivotal scene, she creates a cactus. So we got this cactus on a trip with my sister and her fiance, and we're like, oh, we all got to get cacti. And when we got this cacti, I looked at Lauren. I said, we got to name this, right? Isabella.
And I was like, oh, we do. It's so cute. It's so perfect. And she is still alive.
Yeah.
How long have we had her?
Well, at least a month.
Oh, gosh, more than a month.
I know. That's why. So at least means this or more.
It's been more than a month, but she has survived.
Yes.
And she's thriving, and she's beautiful, and we love her.
Yeah. And we forgot to make mention of her in the last podcast. So we wanted to make sure to mention her in this one, which is why I thought it was so funny how we went through the entire first subject without mentioning it, even though we talked about it moments before recording.
I mean, we're trying.
I am very frustrated with myself right now.
Why?
Because, all right, I'm going to take a 5-second break real quick here. I'm going to keep talking, though, so that those listening to the podcast have something to listen to. I was trying to think ahead, and I was like, I'm going to have something to drink, but I want something cool to drink. So I put a Mountain Dew in the freezer to just cool it off while I was waiting for you to get here. And then we started the podcast, and I just now realized after you took your drink that I left it in the freezer.
I would like it known I specifically went to Starbucks to get this drink because I thought it would be cool. We could be trendy, like to have drinks whilst we talk for both practical reasons and just because that could be part of our aesthetic.
So once again, I will be opening the soda while recording the podcast.
But you could just leave it open.
No, I have to open it though to drink.
Well, now, but
Yes.
last time you were like, in between conversations.
Well, that's because I'm paranoid and I'm worried I'm going to knock it over.
I mean, fair, but I think you're fine.
That's nice and chilled too. All right.
Okay, what's next?
Well, that's what I was gonna say is this time you have prepared some topics.
Okay.
So I was wondering, I did a topic. If we could now move to
Go
one of your
back and
topics.
forth?
Yeah, do a little back and forth.
Well, I have
thing
a grand total of 2, so
Well, if you run out, then we'll just do mine.
fair enough. Okay, so I chose this subject because, one, I have a really, I think it's a very funny story relevant to the topic,
Mhm.
but I also just want to hear you rant about it for
Oh,
a number of minutes. So all I have written down is a check mark with subs versus dubs. For those listening, he's giving me a look.
So, for those who don't know, this is referring to anime, the Japanese animation style, and it has become very popular over here. The surge in popularity happened during my formative years, and there is a heated debate among those who watch anime who are very into it. They are called weebs, for those who do not know.
Why do they call them weebs? What do you know what the word actually refers to? Because I do not.
So I don't, but if I had to take a guess,
Yeah.
I would have to say that it is a alteration of the word dweeb, and the weeb part might have something to do with a Japanese word that I don't know. This is purely hypothetical. Do not use this as a primary source.
No, we do not know the answer.
Yes.
We know the term, but we do not understand why
In fact,
the term
I'm going to do a
exists.
disclaimer right now. Any facts that are stated on this podcast,
Do not listen to us.
no. Double check before you state with authority, because we are doing this off the top of our heads. We do not have research in front of us. And so we are human, last time I checked. Yep, she's human. So sorry, no, I got myself with that one. So we are able to make mistakes. Going back to what we were saying.
Weebs.
Yes, weebs. My guess would be is that it since it sounds like dweeb.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is dweeb just with no D.
That's true.
You just realized that, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but I'm but is that relevant? Never mind.
No.
We're going off on a tangent. There's nothing to do with anything.
A tangent on a tangent on a tangent.
That's very on brand.
Yes. So, that would be my answer. So, in the community of weebs, there's a heated debate on which is the superior way to watch anime. Is it with subs, which is short for subtitles, so you're hearing the original voice casting of the anime, but with subtitles underneath with the English translation? Or is it dubs, which is for dubbing over the voices with American English-speaking voices? I guess it could be someone other than an American, but
Usually
it's usually American.
Yeah.
For the English translation. And there are several points on both sides. For the side of the sub, they often talk about how it gives you the original expression of the media, because when you do a dub, obviously you're not going to have somebody with the same voice as the Japanese voice actor, so that now changes how the character sounds, which can change how you perceive the character.
Boy, doesn't it. That's where my story comes in, but I'll let you finish first.
Okay. Another reason for subs is that sometimes when they are doing the dubs, they change what is being said. Most of the time, this is because of references made that are relevant to Japanese culture that do not translate into American culture. And so very often they will change what was said so that it will make sense to an American audience that doesn't understand Japanese culture. Now, to high-level weebs, they're like, no, it must be the original. And it's like, well, yeah, because you understand Japanese culture, so you understand the joke. But if you're trying to reach a broader audience, then it makes sense to make this more accessible to those who wouldn't get those references. The main reason I prefer dubs, I believe this was also mentioned on the previous podcast,
It was hinted at, yes.
Is that I have dyslexia. It is so I'm going to explain this really quickly because a lot of people, as soon as I say I have dyslexia, they're like, oh, you see words backwards or all jumbled around. No. Dyslexia, like most disabilities, has a range. I am on the lighter side of dyslexia, where the transition from what's on the page to what I think of in my head kind of goes through a weird cacophony of stuff, and so it takes me longer to process what is on the page. So basically, long story short, which I already made longer, I read at a slower rate and have a lot of trouble spelling, but I can still read just fine, and I can write. It's just that I do it slower than one would expect. And so when I am watching either television or movies with subtitles, it is very difficult for me because I have to concentrate on the subtitles in order to read them, which means I notice nothing that's going on screen. So when I have something that's subbed, I have to make a choice. I can either see what's going on or I can know what they're saying. I can't do both, which takes a lot of the experience out of me. Basically, I'm reading a book with a lot of flashing pictures trying to distract me. So that's why I prefer dubs. And anytime someone has this argument with me, I just throw out the dyslexia thing. And it's like, so while I don't have a strong feeling like dubs are superior to subs, I feel like a lot of people who have this argument say, like, who are on the sub side, basically say you should never watch dubs. Dubs are terrible. They shouldn't even create dubs. And it's like, just like with any dichotomy, there are extremists at both ends. And so I always fight, well, to some people, they need the dubs. Fun fact, I had a friend who learned how to speak Japanese just so that she could watch anime without having to read the subtitles.
Wow.
That was the only reason she learned Japanese, was because she had no plans of going to Japan because she couldn't afford it. But like, the whole reason she wanted to learn Japanese was to watch anime without having to read the subtitles.
Well, I get that, because one of my besties did the same thing with French. We were obsessed with the Quebecois music. Well, we're past tense, yeah, right. We are obsessed with a certain Quebecois musician, and obviously, if you don't speak French, you have a pretty hard time understanding song lyrics, or just, which is fine. Like, I mean, the music is beautiful without understanding it.
Yeah, like
but,
people go to the opera without knowing
right,
Italian.
Right, but like, she specifically taught herself French, like, online, like, taught herself French so that she could understand all these Quebecois songs. So
now that I've taken us on several tangents, the story behind this question.
Yeah. Okay. So I like this topic because we both have something to contribute to it. That's why I picked it.
Like mine.
Yeah. Well, no.
I'm joking.
Okay. Anyway, that did not hurt.
I don't know if you watched the actual video on YouTube, but I did put the part in where you hit me with the pillow.
I know. I saw it.
Okay.
I watch our stuff.
Well, yes, but you often watch the unedited versions.
That's true.
So you don't always know what I put in the edited versions.
I watch the edited version.
Okay.
That's not the point. The point is...
Back to the story.
So, another one of my dearest friends, and if she's watching, she knows who she is. Hi.
I don't know who she is, but hi also.
You will once I tell the story.
Okay.
So... my friend and her husband are anime enthusiasts.
Now I know who we're talking about.
Not of the great, like, the highest caliber.
Yeah.
They are still very, like, entry level by, like, most anime fan standards, but they're far more knowledgeable than I am. And so she was giving me a list of, like, introductory anime to watch, like, things that, like, if not too overwhelming, not too crazy, like, things that were kind of more westernized, maybe, so that it was a bit more digestible before delving into the deeper stuff. And so one of those shows that she recommended was Black Butler, which basically it takes place in the Victorian era in London. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Very gothic, very, very demonic, very much my wheelhouse. So it was great. I was thoroughly engrossed in this show. It's on Netflix, so I'm just making my way through it. And every time we would have a call, I would tell her like how far I was in the series and how much I was loving it, and like I would mention certain things, and she would kind of give me a look, like, okay, sure, okay. Very polite, very just taking in what I say. I'm so excited about it. She's just taking it as it comes, even though apparently it wasn't making a lot of sense. Mainly being that, like, I would do the voices of certain characters, and I would say, man, the voice acting in this is so good, and she'd be like, okay, sure, great. So this goes on for a while. And I don't know exactly when the moment happened, but she made some kind of a comment about it being in English. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not watching it in English. And she's like, wait a second. Are you watching it in the original Japanese? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I clicked on it and that's what came up. I didn't think it had English subtitles. So I just assumed that was the version. I didn't look into it. I just like, okay, I can understand it. I'll read the subtitles. Yeah, there's a thing in Netflix where you can see if there are other dubbed recordings of the same anime. I had no idea. So the reason she was so confused is I was talking about a completely different cast of voice actors. So that tells you, like, I understand why people say it completely changes the experience, because it does. So, like, in the original, the Japanese version, oh gosh, what's his name? The Undertaker. The Undertaker has this very creepy sort of voice. He kind of talks like this, and it's extremely creepy, and I loved it. Well, in the English version, he talks like this. He's got a real exaggerated Dick Van Dyke accent. That sounded like it was Australian.
I was to say, yeah, that's not Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke isn't from down under.
It's so thick that that's what it sounds like. Like it's supposed to be Cockney, but it is like almost Australian, New Zealand. It's so
Cockney
thick.
by someone who is not Cockney.
Correct. So so like when I was talking about how creepy and scary the Undertaker was, she was like, okay. And the other one.
You should not watch Mary Poppins if you find that accent scary.
The other thing, now his character design was still creepy, but the voice acting is not creepy at all. And then there was another character who I thought was, the way that they were drawn, they could have been very non-binary. There was no determined sex based on the character design. It was implied that they were male, but it wasn't. But the voice acting was clearly a young woman. Clearly. So I thought that this was either female or non-binary character. So I was always talking about, in reference, like, I like the ambiguity of how this character may or may not be male, may or may not be female. And that's again when Becky was like, okay. I said her name, it's fine, she knows. Anyway, she's like, okay. And so, but then in the English version, very, very, very masculine voice. Extremely masculine, like no hesitation or questioning, masculine voice. So again, so we didn't know any of this. I don't know how many conversations we had where I was saying one thing and she was just blindly agreeing with me because she is a saint and wonderful, even though it made absolutely no sense. So I'm not choosing a team. I'm just saying that yes, subs versus dubs, very different experience.
That's actually one annoyance I have with Netflix is, like, you know, they'll have subs and dubs on some. Some they will only have the subs, and I can understand. Okay, you don't have access to the dubs. What annoys me is when they'll have subs and dubs, but only for the first couple of seasons, and then go just the subs, and it's like, I know the dubs exist for this.
Yeah.
Why do you not have dubs? And that's just mild annoyance. I wasn't going anywhere with that. I just wanted to complain.
Well, clearly it's not well marked because I didn't even know.
Oh yeah, like it took me a while to realize how to figure out, like, because I can't remember which book. I know I've gone in other formats where when you look at the title, it will like the title of the anime, it will say sub or dub next to it. And I believe on Netflix, it says it on the episodes you select. So when you go there, it'll show two versions of episode one. One will be subbed, one will be dubbed. Now, you would think they would use the same photo on the left, so you would realize they're the same episode. They do not. They use different photos, so it looks like it's two different episodes, which is probably why you didn't think that they were just. You probably just thought that the second one was the second episode.
I don't even remember having a menu. I literally just remember selecting the card and then just start playing, and I just got the Japanese with English subtitles. I
could be completely wrong. I could be mixing up my formats, and this is actually Hulu I'm talking about.
Either way, I was not informed, and that's what happened. And like I say, I love that story. It's very funny to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is the subs versus dubs.
So when it comes to Black Butler, it sounds like you prefer the sub version to the dub version. Because not just with this one anime. Yeah. Because like you said, at least the things you pointed out that were different, it sounded like you preferred the subbed version.
I don't think that the dub version's bad.
No, I didn't say bad. I never. But we can go back to the recording. I never said bad.
No, I know. It's what I'm saying is it's not of lesser quality.
No.
It is a different experience, but you can watch both and you pretty much get the exact same experience from it. I think I prefer the sub version because that's the version that I first watched and grew attached to. And
another disclaimer: just because we offer a preference to one thing does not mean we think the other thing is inferior or lesser.
That's my toxic trait, apparently, because that's how I view things.
So many people I interact with. Like, I've had people that say, "Are you a cat or a dog person?" I say, "I'm a dog person." Why do you hate cats? What about being a dog person makes you hate cat? For some reason, a lot of people think the world is black and white, and if you like one thing, that means you hate the other thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, I like both things. One I just like more. One gets a B, one gets an A. A B is still a very good grade, but an A is superior, so that means I like that better.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Any other sub versus dub topics you wish to touch? You just wanted to tell that story.
Oh, yeah, and I know you have very strong opinions because of and for
excellent topic.
Well, and also thank you, but also for very ableist reasons. Like most people who don't have dyslexia, they wouldn't think of that, right? I mean, I even have moments where if text goes words are hard. If text goes by too quickly on the screen, I had trouble reading.
Yeah.
I pause stuff all the time to make sure I can understand it. So I can only imagine the frustration of that being doubled.
Yeah, that's why, for any of you who have watched my YouTube channel, when I do my blooper videos, I have text on the screen, and I use my reading speed as a measure because I'm like, all right, if I have enough time to read this, that means not only does the average person do, but somebody with a little bit of a slower reading does too. But you can't put it up there forever. There does need to be a cutoff point.
Well, yeah.
So it's like
within reason.
Exactly. That's why I use my reading ability as kind of the cutoff point, saying, okay, if I can read this in time, that means I would estimate 60 to 70% of people can read it at this speed.
Yeah, that's a good indicator. Smart.
All right.
Smart and pretty.
Okay, I'm actually going to skip to one of my newer topics.
Ooh.
The Nobel Prize gold medal one was one I wrote down for last time, but this one I find is a very interesting discussion point. So, I'm going to create an artificial scenario here.
Okay. Hypothetical?
Yes.
Love hypotheticals.
So, scientists have created this device.
Okay.
It's a bit like the Matrix, where it puts you into a computer simulation or world.
Okay.
All right? And you have to make a choice. You can choose to go into this computer simulation mode.
Okay.
And when you do, your memory of that choice will be erased from your mind. So you will not, while you are in this computer simulation, you will not know you are in a computer simulation. Okay? No, just stay with me here.
I know.
There's a reason for why you don't know. So When you're in this computer, you think you're just living your own normal life.
Okay.
But the computer simulation will analyze your thoughts to make it your perfect life. The best life you could possibly have. Even if your personal desires change with time, the program will change with time. So you end up getting your perfect job. You never have a bad hair day. You never lose any friends or family. Nothing bad ever is always great and perfect in this.
So that's option
And
one.
you will, but if you go into this, it is a one-way trip. You will spend the rest of your life in this simulation. So the question is, at least part A of the question is, do you go into the simulation? So the question is, do you give up on this life to live your perfect life, knowing that to you, that life will be real. It's not like you will be living in that life knowing. So you won't know about the fact that other stuff is going on in the real world, stuff like that. Would you go into the simulation to live your perfect life?
Everything in me is screaming absolutely not.
All right, why is that?
First of all, I've seen too many iterations of this where
You gotta realize this is a hypothetical,
I
not the starting of the Matrix or any of those. So nothing. It's nothing's going to go bad. It's not like they're all of a sudden someone's going to hack your program and everything is terrible.
Right.
This is
you're basically leaving an imperfect world for a utopia.
Yes. But you will not know that you have made this choice.
Right.
It will just seem like to you, all of a sudden everything is getting better. Like suddenly all the wars are stopping, and all the people who are fighting against things that you believe in turn around and are now fighting. Are now agreeing and going towards what you believe in. People who were toxic to you in your real life make a change, apologize for what they have done, and repair relationships that you thought were broken forever. Everything that could possibly be fixed in your life is now being fixed.
I still don't like it.
And why is that?
Okay, so I know that if I were to go into the simulation, I would have no memory of my prior life.
No. That's something that when I give this stimulation, they think you forget everything that happened. No, you still remember. So
I would know I made that choice?
No, that's the one difference. That's one thing you don't remember from your current life is that you chose to go into this machine.
Right.
That's the only thing that you don't remember. So let's say that
so you just think you're living your normal life.
Yeah. So everything that's happened to you up until that point.
Question
that?
Wouldn't your brain be like, what the hell is going on? If I think that I'm living my life and then all of a sudden everything just becomes perfect, how can I get over the coincidence of that?
That is actually one issue that I had with this question when I first heard about it. Is that I'm like,
no.
I was like, my brain might not function this way because I would instantly question this.
1,000%.
And then how does the computer react to that?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of is that it makes the changes gradual.
Yeah.
Instead of making your life instantly perfect, it could realize, like I said, this computer analyzes your brain, so it will know that you would doubt this. So maybe the wars don't stop instantly, but there is a ceasefire. So the world basically things start getting better like we hoped they would.
Yeah.
And but will in this computer simulation, it could be that they start getting better and no new bad things come up like they seem to in the real world.
I still don't know how, even if it was time and years and years, I still don't see how your prior brain could cope with the idea that nothing is going wrong in the world. Even if it was gradual. Gradual makes sense short term. Short term, I get it. It's like, oh wow, things are really looking up for me lately. But long term, I still don't see how that could be maintained and sustained.
And I agree with you. Like I said, this is when I first came across this and I had to think about it, I'm just like, yeah, what is it?
Unless you just blindly are okay with your world being perfect. Which I guess is one way of interpreting it, but like, how could anyone do that, I guess? I personally don't understand how someone could do that.
How someone could live a life without any hardships?
No, that's easy. I mean, like, accept it. How could they just blindly be like, oh, okay, I guess the world's perfect now. Cool.
Which, like, I know, like I said, but it also kind of depresses me a little bit, the fact that, like, because imagine that's first, even though it's obviously never going to happen, imagine if that actually did start happening in this world.
I wouldn't believe it. I think there was
exactly,
something wrong.
And like, that kind of depresses me, that because, like, as a people, we are always striving to make a utopia.
Right.
So, like, the idea that it is a goal that we have set for ourselves that if we ever reach, we will doubt it.
But we also know that human beings are awful.
Yes.
Like, anytime a utopian story takes place, it always ends up not working because humans suck. Inevitably, regardless of how well it gets built up to this point, it inevitably fails. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that's, like, why I would not be able to accept, even though we all want it. Like, nobody doesn't want this. But, like, due to the circumstances of which it happens and how it happens, and just, I can't fathom it. So my question is...
all right, yes.
Oh, no, it's not a question, but, like, what I would say is, like, okay, does everyone just know about this program? Like, this is a thing you can, like, add onto your life? Like, go to the, electronic store and just get it done, like any other, like, materialistic thing that we're exposed to through marketing? Is it common knowledge that you can just go do this thing?
I've never looked at expanded, because this is more supposed to be an analytical of yourself versus society.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would impact my... Okay, so here's my thought. So, like, if this was something that you could just, like, get done, like, if this was, like, just something that was marketed to the people to massively do, and I saw this, I would be like, absolutely not. Because in my brain, if I were seeing this as now if this were just done to me, my answer would be completely different. If it was, like, against my knowledge, or, like, it was to my knowledge, but, like, it wasn't explicitly explained, it's like, okay, we're doing this procedure to you, it would be different. But if it was marketed to me, and I saw that it was something that was being offered to anyone just to, like, experience, I would be like, no, absolutely not. Because if I were to make the conscious choice to take on this thing for my own life, I would, even if I didn't remember once I had the procedure done, me in the present prior to the procedure would be like, the minute I do that, I die. If I knew what the program did, if I knew what the upgrade did, I would be like, no, that is a false reality. That is not something I want for myself. Me living here right now would essentially die. And I don't want to die.
All right, so you're viewing that if you entered this false reality, to you, that would be the same as you dying.
Correct.
Because there's no longer you.
Right. Regardless of what I know in the alternate version, like, even if I think that I'm still living my normal life and everything's totally...
And even though your body is still alive...
Correct.
You consider yourself...
I would consider myself to be dead.
I've never heard that response to this before.
Right, because the minute you stop living reality, you essentially die. Right? Like, that's how I view it.
That is an interesting...
That's why...
Yeah, you kind of stumped me on this one.
That's why virtual reality shows and, like, movies, like, scare me so badly. Because when we go to these utopian places, we even do it low-key. I actually had this discussion the other day in my yoga class. The line between mental health and escapism. It's very, very easy to blur that line. And that's a scary thing about it, is like, okay, we do things that give us serotonin that make us feel good, and we need to feel good, especially when things are very bad. We need to compensate. But a lot of nerds, especially, a lot of passionate people, run the risk of, okay, well, how many hours is too many hours of World of Warcraft? How many hours is too many hours of chatting on community boards and immersing yourself in fan fiction websites, right? Like, where's the line? So, like, that's kind of how I view it. Like, whenever I see those, like, virtual reality things and, like, where, you can become a whole new person in this whole new virtual world, it's like, okay, but then you're essentially leaving your physical world behind. And that's terrifying to me. Like, it's okay to do it in moderation. Like, escapism is good. I think escapism in healthy doses is incredibly important and useful.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, when it becomes all-consuming, like technology has become for us, or anything that has become, like, central to our lives and how to live them
Mm-hmm.
and function properly, anything that goes beyond what it's supposed to, and when it takes over your actual physical life, you essentially just stop living.
Wow, that is definitely not a response. Like I said, I've talked to a couple of people about this in the past. I've heard other people talk about it, and that is not a response I've heard before, which I do find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so.
Well, like I said before you go on, the one thing I would say though, if it was done to me, if I didn't know, if I was like in the hospital because of some accident and they put me on this program so I would live, I probably would still question why the world's perfect, but I think I would just accept it. And I don't think I would think much about it. I think I would become complacent just to have it be my life. Because if I'm not aware of what's happening to me, I don't know any better. It's just my life, but a better version of my life. So I probably would be like, why is everything so nice? But it wouldn't be like, why is everything so nice? You know, like jarringly. It would be, I think it would be more, I don't know. It depends.
I think the way you're saying this makes me think that like you're viewing this slightly different than my intention.
Probably.
Because you're saying like the two different scenarios.
I wouldn't do it by choice.
I know, but like you're saying that if you did it by choice or not by choice, you would have different reactions in the alternate reality. And the scenario I'm putting forward is that wouldn't be possible because in both scenarios, when you enter the alternate reality, you would not know about this being a choice or this happening to you. It's like either way, you wouldn't, the way I'm putting it forward is say you were, in a hospital and we did this, or you went in there and made the choice, both
the result would be the same.
Yeah, both entrances into this alternate reality would be the same.
I get that.
Because
I get that.
Yeah, you would, it would basically be like you waking up one morning, and you're in a simulation. It would just be like waking up. It would be kind of like the day that you made this choice. Your memory was erased of that, and any memory that this is an option, so that you can't obviously know that you're in it.
I get that the result would be the same. I'm just saying that the circumstances, if they were either I made the decision or if it was thrust upon me. I'm talking about prior me. I'm not really talking about what me in the simulation would be.
Okay, see that's what I was.
The only thing I can think of in simulation me would still be like, why is my life suddenly awesome? Why is the world perfect? That's weird. I think that would happen regardless.
Okay.
But no, in terms of that answer stays the same. But in terms of like prior, like if you, right now, like this present me making this decision, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
It depends on how it's done.
You can see why I chose this topic.
That was good job.
So my response to this.
What do you got?
Well, every so often I thought you were done, so I tried to do my response, and then you're like, "Oh wait, no, I got more." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like trying to let you get it all out.
I'm very excited about this.
Exactly, but like it was kind of weird because every time I thought you got it all out, I'm like, "Okay, I'll do my answer." Nope, she's not done. Okay, I'll do mine. Nope, she's not done.
Do your thing. Do your thing.
So,
do your thing. Actually, wait. Okay. He's glaring at me again.
So. My answer has altered to this, thanks to you.
Oh!
Because one of the conflicts that I thought of when I heard this question is the knowledge prior to going into the simulation that you are leaving everybody you know behind. So, like, obviously, once you're in a simulation, all your loved ones are there with you. They're simulated. But to you, they are real, and you can't tell the difference. So you don't realize while you're in the simulation that you left everybody behind. But while you are making this decision, you realize I'm leaving all my loved ones behind.
Ooh.
And so to me, that was the main conflict with this one is, do I leave all of my friends and family behind to live my perfect life?
That is such a valid point. I didn't even think of it that
I know.
way.
I thought that's where you were going to go. I
No,
thought
I
we
was-
were on different wavelengths. Like I'm over here going, and you're here going,
I was so enraged by the system, I didn't even think about like what it would do to me personally. I was just like, no.
So prior to meeting you, I would have gone into this simulation because while I do love my friends and family, I do love you. I felt that
Wow.
me not being in their lives, being in a simulation, wouldn't be that difficult for them to be like, well, Steve is, like, because obviously they would know, oh, he's in a simulation, he's living his perfect life.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
I thought you were saying that they would be better off without you.
no, not talking about that.
No.
But like, they would be able to go on their lives,
Okay.
not having to be that.
They're aware of this decision.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're aware of this,
Okay.
and it wouldn't harshly affect their lives.
That's
is
way
what I'm
better.
saying.
Okay.
Now that I have a significant other, who I believe
That's me.
would be, yes, that is you, who would be greatly affected by my sudden disappearance into this virtual world, has changed it that I would not do that because I would know that how much that would hurt you to no longer have me in your life. There is a caveat to this. Although now that I know your answer, that kind of changes my caveat.
If we went together?
If we went together, if there was a way where we would both go into pods and we would share the perfect world. So me going in, knowing that you are also going in with me, so that the you in this virtual world isn't virtual, but actually you, then I'd be willing to go in. However, I now know that if this ever becomes a possibility, yeah, that's not going to happen. But, like I said, I just, before meeting you, I was like, well, I wasn't very social. So I did have friends and family, but I'm just like, I think they would be able to function without me if they, knowing that I am safe and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a way, it was me kind of visualizing if I, like, say, traveled to some other country that didn't have phone access or something like, I became, what's it called when you go off and...
Off the grid?
Not quite off the grid, but you, like, go to another country to help people who are...
Oh, yeah, like, why are we blanking on this
I have
word?
no idea why we're
They
blanking on
know,
this word.
they know.
You know this word, and you are shouting at us right now. This is the word. Thank you for shouting at us. We cannot hear you, but thank you. But if I did that, I don't feel like I feel my family would go on and like.
But in a way, did you not essentially just kind of say that you were dead to them?
That is the way you're making it sound now. Is that that's
just saying. Sounds an awful lot like you're not the picture anymore.
But
life will go on.
Like I said, is that really much different? Especially like say back in the old days, before phones and reliable mail and stuff like that. If someone went off to another country,
well, yeah, that's why nobody did it.
But some people did do it.
Well, no, I know, but like in like a system like this, like you would just stay with you. Like, no one left. You stayed.
But like there were people that did leave, and so it's like I kind of viewed it like that.
Mm.
So as you can see, you and I had very, very different views on this subject.
Vastly.
That was part A.
Oh my God, there's more?
Well, part B is, well, I like to think it's an interesting thought experiment, and you can dive into it as deep or shallow as you wish. Is let's say, regardless of whether you choose to go in or not, that you are in this simulation. Okay.
Okay.
You're not. What changes do you think will happen? For example, this is now your perfect life.
Yeah.
What is your job? Because to my friends at work, I think you'll understand that my current job is not my dream perfect job. Like if I go into a simulation, I am no longer working. Should I mention where or?
It's up to you.
All right, so I work at Wazala Publishing, which is a book manufacturing business. I enjoy my job. It is a way to pay the bills. I enjoy my coworkers. but there are many things I would much prefer to do. So when I was thinking of this, talking with a friend at work, actually, but I don't want to be at my work. Talking with a friend at work, and I was kind of pitching this idea off of her to kind of get my brain active to how I would interact with you. I was like, well, I would think, at least initially, for my perfect job, because remember, you could get bored with something, and because my work friend, who I will not mention, I'll do a better job than you did not mentioning people.
Listen.
Said that she's like, well, yeah, but if I did this as, because I was like, oh, well, maybe you will be an artist in this perfect world. She goes, yeah, but like doing that for the rest of my life, I might get bored. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's a computer that can change and stuff like that. So if you start getting bored and you show other interests, the computer will be like, oh, they're bored with this. Okay, we're now going to make this their career. For those watching or listening on podcasts, I'm doing very dramatic hand gestures.
Swoopy hand gestures.
Sorry, I made myself laugh. So, like, when I'm entering this perfect world, I believe that my career would transform into children's book author. As you know, that is something I have done a little bit as a small hobby, which has kind of gotten set aside now that I'm doing this as a hobby, because before I was doing it as kind of a creative outlet, and now this is my creative outlet. But it is something that, like, if I could make a living off of being a child book author, I would gladly. I've actually mentioned this to you before. If I made anywhere near what I'm making at Warzall, I would even accept slightly less, and then just like do something else, like substitute teach or something like that to make up the difference. Fun fact for those who don't know me, I used to be a substitute teacher. I would gladly switch to being a children's author versus working at Warzall. So I feel like if I enter this perfect world, that will become my job. What do you think your job would become? Would you still be working at the college in graphic design, or do you think the computer would analyze and think, oh, she would much rather be doing this, but isn't because of certain factors that I, as a computer, can eliminate?
I mean, quite frankly, I'm pretty much living my dream. I love graphic design. Mm-hmm. It's what I'm trained to do. I like to say I'm good at it, without being too unhumble. But I think the only thing that would change is I wouldn't get bored.
Okay, so there would always. So yeah, I know you say sometimes like the projects they have you do can be a little bit boring because
boring projects themselves being boring isn't really the problem, because like you obviously have different graphic design tangent, you obviously have different functionality for different pieces. So if you just need like an invitation that has, or a stationery set, let's say a stationery set that has like a little design around the border and then like a title and then like lines on it so you can write. Mm-hmm. Like that's not you can still make it look really cool, but like there's not a lot of components you can really, it's pretty set in stone, but that's its purpose, right? Like I don't mind designing simple pieces because they have a function. It's like one of the things I like about it is the challenge of having to adhere to a brand standard and to use the same colors and the same fonts and the same like basic general aesthetics over and over again.
The restrictions make it challenging
right.
to be creative working within restrictions.
Right, exactly. And in some ways it generates more creativity, but at the same time, depending on what you're working on and in just the duration of working on things, even if you're trying to keep things fresh and relevant, it does. Every once in a while, every artist has this. You burn out, you get bored, you get tired, you don't get really inspired very easily because you're just kind of done doing the same thing over and over again. So like, I don't know if I would change. I love working at a university set. Okay, that's one thing. I think that universities in general would be not in financial straits and in higher regard by society as a whole. And I also think that like, if it were at all possible for it to be perfect, it would just be like, I'd still adhere to a brand standard, but I would just always have like really exciting work to do.
All right,
or if the work isn't exciting, I would find a way easily to make it exciting. Exactly.
Okay, so you would have the same job. you just wouldn't have the lows that you sometimes have, which
Yeah.
everybody,
I wouldn't
even
have-
people
yeah.
who are, living the dream, doing the job that they love, everybody has lows in their job.
Yeah, I get rid of the lows, I get rid of burnout, I get rid of just general exhaustion, like just, physical exhaustion.
Okay.
Limitations like that. Like, I wouldn't want to have to worry about wearing blue light glasses so my eyes don't get burned out by my screen. Things like that. Like, little detail stuff, probably. I still would teach yoga.
Okay.
I'm doing something. That's something I never dreamed I would ever do. And now that I'm actually doing it, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that that's something I managed to do. I'm so proud of myself. So, like, I'd still obviously be teaching yoga too. Just the ability to, like, do things. I think that's the other thing too. Like, having the ability to do things if you want. So, like, I would love to be a published author. I think everybody would who likes to write. Any creative who likes to write. I think, like, a low-key dream is, like, I really want to be a published author. And, like, but my problem is I know for a fact that I'm not an original storyteller. I like to take other people's stuff and make original stories out of their work, which is basically a professional fan fiction writer, which they do exist. But, like, I think that would be, like, in a perfect ideal universe, I could probably just be a professional fanfic writer, but it would be, like, legitimately published and sold in bookstores. I think that'd be freaking rad.
Alright. So, is there any other alterations to the world that you wish to discuss? Because obviously...
I do not wish to discuss anything beyond fun.
Yeah.
Personal life.
Exactly.
That's a rabbit hole we don't want to go to.
We're not going to get into the, hard hitting, emotional stuff that we would change in the world. Yes.
Coffee is always the temperature you want it to be.
There you go. See, that's an example. Like, one of my examples is that pizza can give you all your daily nutritional value.
That'd be great.
So it's like, for those who don't know, I eat pizza very, very, very regularly. I've had pizza as my cold lunch ever since elementary school. So elementary school, middle school, high school, and every job I've ever worked at, my lunch has been cold pizza. So I eat a lot of pizza, and there have been days where I've had pizza rolls for breakfast, cold pizza for lunch at work or school, and then come home and bake a pizza in the oven for my dinner. I realize that this is probably not the healthiest choice, but I often argue with people that pizza is a miracle fruit.
Fruit?
I almost said musical fruit. Pizza is a miracle food because you have the... I broke you, didn't I?
You're joking, you're fine.
Because you have the crust, which is your breads. You have the cheese, which is your dairy. You have the tomato sauce, which is your fruit. You have the, in my case, sausage, which is your meats. And I'm doing my best not to swear, forget vegetables. When I don't, while I don't state that this is a non-swearing podcast. I just try not to so that more people can enjoy it. And I often don't use forget when I say forget vegetables. But, that's why I've been joking around that pizza is a miracle food, because it has all the important food groups. I don't like vegetables. Sorry, Andy.
No, you're
have
fine.
You recovered?
Yeah.
Has Alligator Loki helped you center yourself?
He's doing great. He is best pillow.
Yes. All right. So, is there any other food alterations you would make?
I could eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and not have it fluctuate at all in my body.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Another idea, when I was talking with my friend at work and she was talking about getting bored with something that you were doing, I was like, oh yeah, like let's say I got bored with being a children's writer in this perfect universe. When I let my mind wander, one thing I thought of was if I was Jeff Bezos, billions of dollars, I can kind of pretty much do what I want. I would create my own game studio.
Ooh.
Because for those of you who don't know, a lot of game studios treat their employees poorly. And there's a bad habit of game studios for what's called the crunch, which is the release date is coming up, and they basically work their employees to death to get the game out for the release date. And it's kind of a toxic environment, stuff like that. And in my, billionaire, I can do what I want imagination, make a game studio where you were one, no crunch, but two, you were guaranteed a certain salary. So let's say, for sake of argument, guaranteed $40,000 a year. So you don't have to worry about the game you're doing not being successful, meaning that you can't afford food.
Right.
But you are also given a percentage of the profits your game makes as an incentive to make the game good. But it also allows you to make the game creative, because one thing that a lot of gamers have complaints about with the current gaming universe is that a lot of games are all starting to look similar because they want to get as many people to buy the game as possible. They're basically kind of making all games vanilla. You're not going to get wild, crazy flavors, even though some people love banana nut crunch. Not as many people are going to buy that as vanilla. So we're going to make vanilla, which is why the indie games are getting so much notoriety right now, because those are the people who are like, you know what, I don't want to make vanilla, I want to make something fun and interesting. And this would allow you to, make something fun, interesting, take a risk. And if the risk doesn't pay off, if the game flops, you still have the security of your salary. But if the game does great, it goes bangbusters, you share in the wealth of that game.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and like it's something that, like I said, in a utopia that'd be great. Yay! Yeah. Of course, in a utopia wouldn't need money, but
that's a whole other gradual changes. Remember?
Yes, gradual changes, because
we still have to work.
If we go into this alternate universe and all of a sudden we can fly and fart rainbows, I think that the illusion would be broken pretty quickly.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Any other ideas or thoughts that you have on this one that you think might be fun to talk about?
I'm sure there's a ton of things.
Oh yeah.
But those are my main ones off the top of my head.
All right. So looks like we got time for those of you watching who are wondering why I suddenly lean to the left. I have a timer going on behind the camera here, so I have a general idea of how long these are going, and I'm trying to keep them all around the same length.
Consistency is important.
Yes. So, would you like to do your second topic?
I don't, only because...
You want to save it for the next one?
I feel like it could get really long.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's good. I think it's a good one, but I have a feeling it could go too long.
I know that my other topic is short.
Okay.
I do have a short topic here that we can probably do.
Perfect.
And this is one you saw last time. I don't know if you remember it or not.
Of course I don't.
I was giving you the benefit of the doubt.
You shouldn't. Okay, just go ahead.
All right. So, another hypothetical. You get a cold for a year. So now you remember. You have a cold for an entire year, but after that year, you are now immune from colds forever. So you will never get a cold again in your life, but you have to have a cold for a year straight in order to get to that point. I like how you are now umming and ohing over this more than my other hypothetical question.
I feel like because it's a cold, this is really hard to answer.
Yeah, because it's a mild annoyance.
Right, well, if it was like digestive issues, like if I had to throw up constantly for a year.
Yeah, if you had to have a stomach flu,
no way in
no
heck.
way. Yeah, exactly.
No way.
That's what I like about this question, is because it's like a cold. You can function while having a cold. Yeah, my nose is runny, or I got a bit of a headache from this pressure or something like that.
Yeah, but you just feel like garbage, though. Yeah.
But for the rest of your life, you never have to feel like that again.
Okay. I'm gonna say, because the cold is a mild annoyance in terms of being sick, I don't know how I would fare if that mild annoyance is taken away from me for the rest of my life, because I do not handle being sick well at all. I very rarely get sick, so when I do, it feels like I'm dying. I'm not. In fact, I have a very low pain tolerance as well. He knows. So I don't handle discomfort in my physical body well, even a little bit. So colds are kind of like my reality check with illness. Like every once in a while I get a cold and I'm like, yeah, okay, this sucks, but like I can do this. I can, like I can beat this. It's just a cold. If I suddenly didn't have that cushion as a point of reference for other illness, I don't think I would do well. I do not think. Yeah, can you imagine?
You have such a talent for taking these hypotheticals into areas I could never imagine. There is no way. If you gave me 100 years to think up scenarios of how you would take this question, I would never use it as I use colds as a baseline to reassess how bad I feel when I am sick with other things. Never would I have thought of that. Because, okay, I am a little tougher than you when it comes to being sick. I think that's fair to say.
It's very fair. I've only seen you sick like twice, though.
Exactly, and both times were stomach issues.
And that did not go well.
And no, but like I just basically just sat there, watched TV. It's like, all right, just get through it, and then we'll be good. And like, I know you were surprised by this. Another thing that you were surprised with and handled very well is when I'm sick, I like to be left alone.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do not like to be pampered. I will accept help if I need it. Like, if I'm so sick that I can't really move very well, asking someone, hey, can you get this for me or something like that. That I'm not opposed to. But I don't want someone being like, oh, my poor little baby, I will take care of you and love you and make you feel all better. No, I'm like, no, please don't. I just want to get through this.
Yeah, there are two types of people in the world. There's that, and then there's me, who does want to, because I can't function, because I don't know what being sick is. I can't handle it. I don't.
We are the dichotomy when it comes to that.
Yeah, you're like, don't touch me with a 30-foot pole, and I'm like, I'm glued to your side. I will not leave you, regardless of whether or not I infect you. It does not matter, because I am selfish like that.
So, like, now you would think because of this that I would take this answer, wouldn't you?
What? Be sick for a year?
Yeah, so that I would never have a cold again.
You're gonna say no?
Yeah, you thought I was gonna say yes, weren't you?
Yeah, I did.
My reasoning for saying no is that I don't think how often I get with the frequency that I get colds, I don't think that for the remainder of my life, at least to my knowledge, I don't think I'm going to have 365 days worth of colds.
I see.
From now until I die. So what?
That's smart.
Yeah, you were thinking that like, oh, Steve loves because like I'm the kind of person that likes to get the bad stuff out of the way, right away. Like, let's get the bad stuff out of the way. Boom! Now take it all as I can. I'll take all the misery all at once so that I can get to the good stuff afterwards. Versus a little bit of misery sprinkled around. And so like this sounds like something I would like. Yes. Get colds all the way. I'll be sick for a year, but never have to worry about it again.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't because I'm like, I don't think I would have 365 days worth of colds left in my lifespan.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now, if I could have it be like back when I was say 5 years old.
Yeah, and you were sick all the time.
And and have it be then I would say yes, because then going from like 5 years old. So as of recording, I am 37. So in let's say hypothetically I live to be 100. That means that I have 63 more years left to live. So am I going to get 365 days worth of colds in that lifespan? And I don't really think I will. And so that's why I wouldn't go through this, because I don't think I would have that many colds to offset being sick for a full year.
That's such a mathematical answer, and I applaud you for it. Because I don't think in terms of mathematical solutions, but you do. So.
But yeah, like I said, I had a feeling that I was going to kind of throw you for a curve.
Yeah, you totally did.
Because like I said, I'm a very pragmatic person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the solution, we do the solution. And so it's like, get sick for a year, never have to worry about it again. Now, if it was something like be bedridden sick for a year, but you don't have to worry about any diseases for the rest of your life, then I would. Yeah, that's different. But
different.
Yeah, that's why I had a little struggle coming up with this scenario, because I was like, I need to make it something that is inconvenient enough that you want to get rid of it, but not so inconvenient that a full year of it would be basically you can't handle it.
Right.
So that's why I went with a cold.
I like that. That was a good example. It was a very good example. So neither, in conclusion, neither of us would take that.
Yeah, neither of us would take this.
Yeah. I can't handle it, and he doesn't think he'd need it because he doesn't get sick often.
What I find funny is we surprised each other.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I have seen you be sick. You do not handle sick well. And so I thought you would be like, if I can avoid ever being sick again, sick for a year, it's like,
it's only colds.
Well, yeah.
Like you say, if it was everything, that's a whole other ball of wax. But you said just colds.
Yeah.
Ain't worth it.
But also the fact that, because you know that you're going to be sick for a year, there's no surprise of it either. You don't all of a sudden wake up and oh no, I have a cold. You know you're going to have a cold.
Yeah, that's
because that's also something about having a cold. It's like when you start feeling yourself getting the cold.
Yeah.
And so it's just like you already know. Yep, my nose and stuff. Yeah, I have a cold. I'm going to have a cold for another 278 days.
Still nope. Still a hard nope.
All right. Well, I think that was a good amount of time. We did a little less than last time, but close enough. Like I said, yeah, it doesn't have to be exact every single time.
Isn't the saying brevity is the soul of wit?
So you're saying my soul is brevity?
Exactly. That's funny.
I've never heard that saying before.
I'm pretty sure it's a Shakespeare quote.
Ah.
Couldn't tell you where, but I'm pretty sure back in the day when we were doing Shakespeare festivals, that was one of the lines. Brevity is the soul of wit. So, it's better that we're shorter. In conclusion.
How many times have you said it to yourself?
What?
It's better that we're shorter.
Well,
for those listening to the podcast, I'm getting beaten with the pillow again. For those also listening, help, send help, send help. For those listening to the podcast who are not aware, I am 6'4". Lauren, how tall are you?
I round up to 5'3".
So I sometimes I feel given most tall people making short jokes, I do it a relatively small amount of time.
That's true.
I do not.
You could be way more of a jerk about my height, but you are not. In fact, you are very gracious about being my grabber from tall places person. My favorite is when the detergent slides back on the washing machine.
Oh, I have an idea. So to make this just last a couple more minutes, we're going to end with a little story.
Oh, God.
So, very early on in our relationship, she pointed out about how it's going to be great when we go shopping together.
Oh.
Yeah, she knows where this is going. If we go shopping together, because I can get the things on high shelves.
Which is true.
Which is true. Very first time, and I think only time we've ever gone grocery shopping together.
Yeah, usually we take it in shifts.
Yeah. Very first time we ever go grocery shopping together. We are entering the store, and I ask her, do you want to stay together, or do you want to go off and do our own things? And you say, let's go off and do our own things.
Split up. They'll be more efficient that way.
And so I go off, I buy go and get the things I want, and buy the things I want. And when we meet back together towards the checkouts, she goes, where were you? There was something on a high shelf, and I couldn't find you, so I had to climb the shelves in order to get it. And you weren't there to get to me. And I just
I don't think I quit climbing on shelves. It never ends well for me. Yeah. I had to grab another item.
Oh, that's right.
I had to lasso it so that it would fall like a vending machine, and then I could catch it.
And so you were giving me this hard time, and I just looked at you. You said you wanted us to go apart. If you wanted me there to get high things, why did you have us split up?
In my defense, at the time, you were like here and I was here. So I thought you were just around the corner, but then you weren't. And I was like, well, okay, that backfired on me because I swore that you were where I thought you were, but you weren't there. So,
now, the reason I told this story is because in the past, every time she tells this story, she leaves out the part where it was her idea to split up.
well, yeah.
She just starts the story at, we were at the grocery store and I had to get something hot. And I'm like, there's a part before that, honey, that explains why I wasn't there to help you. Like, you make it sound like I wandered off or I purposely abandoned you when you tell the story. And basically make me the bad guy. And I'm like, I'm not the bad guy in the story. I asked you if you wanted me to be at your side, and you said no.
Well, I can't be wrong. I'm always right.
So there you. All right, I think that's a good way to end this
I think
podcast with a
so.
little story. Maybe we'll do that more often for our podcasts, is end with some small Lauren Steve story, whether it be both of us or individual story. But we'll see. This is still in its infancy, and we're still figuring our stuff out.
We have a new setup, though.
Yes.
If the picture quality is better.
So for those
You'll
of
know
you
why.
who watched the video, you will remember in the last one, there was a bit of a problem with the video and the audio not syncing up. I used to use a web camera with my computer, and the quality was not the greatest. And I've recently bought a smartphone. I had the smartphone when we did the last podcast, but I did not have a stand in which to put the phone on, so I still used the webcam.
And now we do.
And now we do have a stand. In fact, it was that last podcast for the reason why I got this stand, because the quality was so bad. Usually when I make a YouTube video, if the quality is bad on one take, I just use a different take. You can't do that with an unedited podcast. Like, basically the only editing I do in this podcast is cut off the beginning part where I'm like getting set up and turning it on, and the end part where I'm getting up and turning it off. Most of what we record goes up on YouTube. And so when that happened, I'm like, well, that stinks. Okay, we're getting a stand so I can have a good quality video.
Yay!
All right. So I think this is a good place to end it. I'd like to thank you all for watching and or listening. It's kind of weird if you're watching and not listening, but you do you. Once again, you can follow me on Invasive Wit on YouTube, on Spotify, and on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I've been Stephen Witt.
And I have been Lauren. I still am Lauren, in fact. He's still Stephen Witt.
And I bet you when you're listening to this, she will still be Lauren.
Oh my gosh.
All right, and until next time, good luck.
Bye!
Oh, shorter. Yeah, it sounded like shorter is better. And
Yeah.
I said, you said a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about how that could have been a dig at me.
Yeah!